Hello, everyone. Welcome to Security and Sandwiches, hosted by Stone Security for the month of August. Today, we are discussing LenelS2's NetBox, particularly version 6.0, the new highlights, features. We're going to look at how to monitor what's happening within your system, adding users, and managing credentials. As we go through, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. No question is too big or too small, and we will process those and respond to those as able to. All right, so to jump right in and get started, I have my screen shared. You should be able to see that. Again, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you find this valuable and insightful. If you are in a Stone office, you have the fortunate easy access privilege of being able to chat with any of our support engineers and any of our sales team as they should be there with you. And if you are joining us remotely, welcome. If you have any questions afterwards, definitely reach out to us and we'll help in any way that we can. Okay, so what we're looking at right now on my screen is probably the LenelS2 login that everyone here is most familiar with. And so I have that pulled up. I actually am going to kick it over to the side because I want to show you side by side the previous layout compared to the new layout. And so on the left side of my screen, I'm running NetBox 5.6. And on the right side of my screen, I'm running NetBox 6.0. So as we look at this functionally, these are the same. What we have, though, is differences in the UI scheme and the user interface. And hopefully you guys will enjoy those changes. First thing, we're at the login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged in here. And straight off the bat, you'll notice some of the differences. What I'm going to do is actually take each of these full screen so you can see. One of the general themes between the changes here in the UI is on the older version, everything is kicked off to the left side of the screen. And so as I bring in additional windows or context menus, whatever it may be, the content on the screen is all left justified. That changes in the new version where everything becomes more centered on the screen itself, which actually lets us use more of the real estate of our monitors anyway. Kind of makes it a little more intuitive, a little more friendly feel. And we'll look at the menus and the context changes that happen there as well. Okay. So once I log in, on the old system, as you're familiar with, we have our menu icons across in the top left corner of the screen. And then we have our home button. If we kind of focus on that home button for a minute, this change is maybe not quite so intuitive. On 5.6 and prior, the home button is just right there in the top left. If we look at the new 6.0 version, there is not a clear and apparent home button. And I can expand out that menu in the same thing. There's not necessarily home button. The home button has moved to what they call a breadcrumb. And so up here on my display, we have Stone Security, Salt Lake City, Utah. That's the name of the company and the partition that we're in. The home button is now at the root of our breadcrumb. So it tells us right now, homepage, monitoring homepage. So this is where we are currently right now. And if I ever need to get back to home, I can just come and click on the homepage button right here. On The old version, again, you just had a home button and it was right there on the top left. So a little bit of muscle memory to change in, can't go to the top left because that's going to expand or collapse my side menus. The homepage button has moved. 6.0 is a version that is out right now. This has been released. It got released, I want to say about 2 months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but 2 months seems about right in my mind. And so if you want to discuss the options for upgrade, and if that upgrade is available, then chat with one of our support team engineers, and they can help look at your system, see which version we can get you upgraded to, and talk through those options. All right. Now, the next thing you'll notice is across the top, I have some other icons. So I have monitor, administration, and configuration. And these side menus that pop up, if I just mouse over them, they disappear unless I click on the search one. There we go. So these disappear as soon as I move away from them. So there's just mousing over the icon, and I come back out to the center of my screen and it disappears. We have similar behavior in the new version where once I click on one of these, now it's anchored and it's locked, so that side panel is expanded. Same functionality in version 6.0. So instead of these icons being tiled across the top of the screen, they go down the left side of the screen. So here's my monitor, here's my administration, here's my configuration, and there's a recent one as well. I can expand that out and it will stay locked out and as I move around. One of the biggest changes you'll notice right off the bat, though, is the absence of the icons. So where in our old version we had, cameras or camera views, activity log, each of these items has an icon associated with it. In 6.0, those icons have gone away. And what we get is kind of a cleaner interface. Yeah, it's a lot more words, it's a lot more text, but it's going to make this a little quicker and easier to navigate. One of the other things that they solved is that on the old version, and this is something I was always struggling with, I come up and I'm always clicking on it and I'm just, I just expanded that out. I locked it and I go to, another screen. I'm like, I got to get that back collapsed. I'm not intending to expand or collapse the sidebar, but I was quite frequently. And then, so it's a mouse over or a click. And then some items are, a click to take you to a page. Some items have their own little sub menu. And so it's a click to get to the sub menu. And it got kind of confusing on where do I need to mouse over and where do I need to click? So that's gotten a little better. Now, on the new version where I mouse over, I get a pop-up. And anything with a sub menu, I can just also mouse over. See, I habitually clicked. So anything with a pop-up, I can just mouse over and those submenus will expand. So I'm not clicking on any of these links. So now I don't really have to click on anything until I get to the end of where I want to go. And then I click to jump to that menu item. Okay. You can also leave this docked out, leave it locked. And now we've got a growing list if that is more your work style. Let's go back to our home page, shrink all that back down, home page over here. And we've got the one locked, so we'll lock the other one too. Okay. So mainly 6.0 was a user interface refresh. The font size increased, I believe, maybe 1 or 2 points from where we had it before. The spacing, the line spacing increased, so it makes things kind of easier to read. Um, and a case point of that is if we look at our activity log, we've got just a really long list of events, and it can be challenging to kind of look through those and see elements that maybe you would want to catch your eye. They've done a good job with the colors, telling you, hey, this portal is held open, so that's something to draw our attention to. But if you're looking through here for something specific, it can be kind of challenging to parse all of that information just because the lines are so close. On the new version, they have, and you'll see this throughout, they've increased the spacing in a lot of the items. Some of the text boxes got bigger for easier text entry. Some of the save, for example, the save buttons got a little larger to make it easier to click on. One thing that may seem a little hidden is on the old system, we have our little hamburger menu up here with the 3 dots and the 3 lines that pops out kind of our quick links. That is still there, but they've changed the icon on that. And so now you get to that same menu just by clicking on your profile on your photo. If you have one, if you don't have a photo, it'll just show a little person, but we have those same options between those two menus. Okay. All right. So if we kind of jump now into just the workflow of kind of the meat of what we want to talk about today, we're going to start with monitoring. And with monitoring, the main thing that we look at in monitoring is the activity logs. And this is a running log of live events that have happened in your system. And we get to look at 2 systems today. We'll kind of do everything we do in pretty much mostly in both systems, in the old and in the new. The new one, for example, we just saw that we got an access granted for Mark. We also see that we have intrusion panel disarms interior and on the perimeter. We also see monitoring started. That's when I logged in. We've also got portal forced opens. We've got some more access granteds. So this tells us who's using our doors, what doors are open, which doors are closed, what doors are held open, forced open, whatever it might be. And I will expand this out just a little bit here. We have this lovely auto monitor, which is kind of giving us a summary of what is happening within our system. So right now in my Salt Lake system, we have one device that's offline. It's a panel, it's a node that's tied to our support office there. They use that for testing and demos. We also have 4 portals that are held open. That means the door is in an open state, propped open, blocked open, whatever it may be. And we have 2 portals that are forced open. Forced open means that the door was opened without an active credential, a valid credential, or without a valid Rex request. So if there's a door, maybe office, that doesn't have either a button Rex or a motion Rex or a Rex built into the handset, when that door gets open during business hours, even though that's expected and approved use of the door, it will show a forced open. There are ways to mask those and hide those during business hours, and that's a discussion for another day. But just highlighting and showing what those interfaces are, that's a really handy little thing. And we have that same thing here in the old system too, auto monitor. Right now, I don't have any doors propped open or held open, and so we're not showing any alarms or alerts there. Okay. In our activity log, if you want to just jump and find something really specific, you have a filter, just a text box search type filter up at the top. And we can search by either really any text, any string, value we can search for. We can search for somebody's name, first name, last name, part of a name. We'll see logged in, logged out. So I logged in this morning a couple times. We'll see that we've got some other individuals, first name or last name, Adam, doing different various things within the system, a lot of access granteds. If we want to look specifically for just me, then we can narrow that down even more. If we want to look for access granted, there's all of our access granteds. If we want to look for denied, we actually have 2 denied events in Salt Lake. Look for denied over in the Vegas system, and I don't have any there. We still have the ability to, so access denied by location by Justin, and then it tells us where at the Salt Lake City mobile security front door. Here we have Riley at the warehouse cage. These are, you can interact with these events a little bit. Anywhere you see a name, you can click on that name and it's going to pull up a little pop-up window showing that user. And then we can see here Salt Lake City entrances access level is the only access level that's granted to this to Justin. But Justin also tried to get into Salt Lake City mobile security front door, which was not within that access group, which is why he got the access denied. We can, any of these as well, if you double click on it, you'll get this duty log entry. So this would be to say somebody's noticing an event, responding to it, making notes. Hey, this door was propped open. That was me, was moving furniture in and out or whatever it might be. You can leave those notes and responses and make notes basically on what's happening in your system, which is helpful for when you're reviewing later. Hey, why was this door held open for 6 hours? It's an exterior door. It's a fire door. It shouldn't have been held open. Then you can make notes on what that is. And that exists in both systems as well. We can do that either place. So I can double click on any event and create that duty log. Okay. We can also, if we just want to search for a particular door, I can search for the cage and we get a list of activity for the cage. Same thing, I can search for cage and we get a list of activity for the cage. So any element really that is showing here, we can search for. I can even take that, let's do 8934, which is the last 4 of this, the hot stamp on this card, 8934, and that will return all the results for that as well. So if you pick up a badge off the floor that somebody turned in as lost, if you can still read the card number off of it, one easy way to see whose that is just to type in, part of the number, see who it pulls up as, see where that badge was used at recently, and you can go from there to return it to them or deactivate it, whatever you need to do. All right, let's jump over to portal status. So in the old system, that's under monitor, portal status, same thing, it's under monitor, and then portal status. Now these look pretty similar. Let me collapse those sidebars so we get more room on the screen since we're looking at both at the same time. The threat level has changed a little bit. We have a kind of our scale of threat level on the pre 6.0 versions, and I'm not seeing that in the 6.0 version. I don't believe that's an option to toggle one way or the other, but that is something notable. Otherwise, pretty much the same. We get the same status icons, a little better spacing again. The items are a little better spaced out, and then we have our same action lists, and then our scheduled action column off to the right. And on the topic of scheduled actions, there's actually 3 different places that you can create or modify scheduled actions. One of them is here in the portal status. And in that we can say, let me grab a door. Let's do the speed lane, Salt Lake City speed lane in. So we can momentary unlock. We can unlock the portal. That will unlock it and hold it unlocked. We can create our scheduled action, or we can disable the portal. So let's go to edit schedule. And here we can do a new scheduled action, and we're going to say unlock. We'll give it a name or a comment describing what we're doing and the reason why. We're going to say do this now, and we're going to close after 5 minutes. And then we'll do the local system time. In this instance, they're the same, but if you're partitioned, you may see differences. Local system time is the time of your controller. Local site time would be the location designator, the location time zone of that partition or that location. So we'll hit OK. So we did get the success message on adding. If I close that, so speed lane in, if I reopen it, we should see, I don't know why that's not showing. I would expect it to. Okay, well, we'll keep moving forward. And do that same action over here. We'll say edit schedule and unlock. It's currently unlocked. Let's lock it. So we're going to do now, and let's make this big so we can actually see all of our text. And we're going to reset that back to, we'll again do the same 5 minutes and submit. So here we get the pop-up. I must have done something wrong in my field entry on the other one. But we have that list. That door is now in a, let's see, shunted open. I did the admin door. That door's open right now, but it should be locked. And so now it's telling us that there's an unexpected door state. Okay, we can also do this from the admin menu. So if we go to admin and schedule action, admin, schedule action. These again look similar. We'll focus over here. And what do we want to do? We're going to say portal. And we can add a new one, and we can specify the portal. We'll say Salt Lake City speed lane in. And I like this method because it tells us what's going on in a nice visual calendar format. So it's going to show us the full week. We can change it to a day, a week, or a month. But in the full week view, everything that's in the past is gray. So we can't modify schedules for yesterday. We can, but it's kind of pointless. If we go today, and if we just say noon to 12:30, give it a name. We want it to unlock, and it's gonna pre-fill in those times, but we can modify them if we need to. Let's say we don't want it for a half hour. Let's just do it for 20 minutes, and we can hit OK, and we'll see that now schedule there on the calendar, and we get it in the list format there. So this is nice because it's going to tell you, when's this scheduled to be locked or unlocked? Am I overriding that? Is there, going to be an unexpected result? Let's pick one. Let's do an exterior door just so we can see how that shows. Let's do Salt Lake City and main entry. So here you can see we have our unlock time spec tied to the business hours. And so if I were to schedule something on top of that, you're going to see that that's going to change the default behavior during that time. So it's a nice visual representation. It's kind of my preferred way of doing it, just so you get a better look at what's going on. Okay, and the third place that we see that these scheduled actions is from the monitoring desktop. So if we go monitoring desktop, and we just hit home because that's my default home page. Actually, it's not. Sorry. Monitoring desktop and monitoring homepage are different. And I always get that confused. So, but from our monitoring desktop, we have the ability to select our portal. We can say lab door, and then we have that same edit schedule here button here. And it's all pretty much the same as far as how that gets set up. So we'll not walk through those because we've done it twice. All right, moving on. Another really helpful tool that people like is floor plans. And before you can start uploading things, dropping icons on a floor plan, you have to upload the image file first. And so there's two things here. One, if I go to monitor floor plans, this is where I would view and interact with my floor plan, but I don't have any floor plans created. To create a floor plan, you have to go to configuration. Sorry. Oh, I lost it. Oh, there it is right in front of me. I was going to say, it's under configuration. Yes. So you go to configuration and then floor plans. It's the same on the new. So configuration, floor plans, and then we have a compose, floor plan groups, and an upload. So we have to upload first. So I'm going to do this in my my Vegas system. So let's go here, floor plans, upload floor plan, and you would choose the file. Any kind of image file is going to be what you want. I already have one uploaded, so I don't want to do it again. But we'll come floor plans. Compose is where you go next, and you're going to say new. GTC floor plan or main floor, however you want to name those. Okay, and then the background. And you'll see here the GTC blank floor plan.jpg. That's the one that we uploaded previously. And now from here, you can start saying resource type. What do I want to put on there? Let's put a portal. Here's my list of portals. So admin door. Admin door is right here. So once you have selected the item, we'll do lab door. So it's already selected. That's the resource. As soon as I click on my map, it's going to drop that resource. We'll do the next one, storage room. Click on my map to drop that resource. Warehouse cage. Click on my map to drop that resource. Once it's on there, you can click and drag it to move it around. And that builds our floor plan. Then we can hit save. Now that we have it saved, if we go to monitor and floor plans, it's going to call up our floor plan that we created. And we have a drop down where we can toggle and select and change between different floor plans. Okay, if we look at that on the new side. So this is the floor plans upload. You would select your file to upload. They did add some nice little information. It does need to be a JPEG or a JPG. There's a maximum size, 256K, whereas before we didn't have any of those clues or parameters. So it's nice to have that. Here they list out the floor plans, and then we have the option to delete floor plans, which, unless I'm mistaken, because I could not find it, that's under the upload. There is no list of floor plans or way to delete existing floor plans. So it's nice that they added that in an easy method. Once you have the floor plan, so we'll go back to floor plans and compose. The process for composing and creating a floor plan is the same. So we'll do Salt Lake, and it would be select the resources. So we can say portal. Here's the portals. You would select it, and then you would drop that onto the map, position it where you want, and then save. Then if we go to monitor floor plans on both, then we get our floor plans with our icons, and we get the door states that show. So we can see that if we look at the Salt Lake front vestibule, the front door is unlocked but currently closed, and the The second door is currently open, held open, propped open. So this is a great way to get a nice quick snapshot, quick view of what doors are open or closed, what's held, as well as you can put cameras on there and some other elements. Okay, moving on to administration. So administration is the little person icon in the old system and the little person icon in the new version. And if we go to, let's look at people. So to see existing people, we go to people search. To see, to add new people, we can go to people add. Now, these are going to take you to the same place. The difference is people add is just going to take you straight to a blank form to add in a new person. If I go to people search, it just is going to take us prepped and ready to search. But I can jump between either one of these. Like here's my add a new person and here's my search. And so a couple ways to get there. All right, so from here we can say search, and we can search for, we can just search by name just up here at the top of the list. So let's say Brandon. And we have 3 of them. We can search for Adam. And there are 4, although one's a last name. Any item in the list we can click on, and we can see the access levels that they have, the access levels that are available to be added. We can see their credentials, the badges that they have currently in the card format. We can also see some additional information here. So we can see things like, well, let me backtrack a little bit. Let me come over here because mine, I believe, still shows the UDF fields. So if we go people search. All right, we'll pick a person. No, I've updated mine as well. Okay, well, we'll just talk through it. And then we'll update some. So people records can have, I believe it's up to 35 user-defined fields. And you can label those to be anything you want. So by default, if you have seen this in your system, you have this section called user-defined, and then it'll say UDF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 35. I don't remember how many display by default. Let me pull this up. We'll bounce between the two. So here we have like field 4, for example. Some are drop downs, some are text boxes, some are check boxes, options there. Okay. So if we come back, we can modify and define what those user-defined fields are. If we go to configuration, I believe, and then let's see, access control, person records, access control, and person records. We have a UDF value list and configuration and templates. So let's go to UDF value list. Oh, sorry, we want to go to configuration. Okay. Value list is where you would say, for my drop down option, we want these, and we'll create that as well. So here I've renamed my field 1 as home office, field 2 as department, 3 is title, 4 physical key number. Maybe if you're checking out physical keys that are stamped with a number and you want to track what that is, you can do that here. School name, if you're a school district, you know, what is the home school of this individual? You can change these and name them really however you want, and you can even hide some of them. So by default, like if we just turn those on, we would then see all those additional fields. We can mark some as required. we can say this has to be a unique value. So there wouldn't be allowed duplicates to any other individual in our system. And then is this editable? Field size, how many characters? Okay, the field type. So let's do a new one here. We'll just call this drop down. Okay, so we want to make this a text, numeric, Boolean, or list. So we can say list. Okay, what list? Well, we need to define a list first. It is not going to let me select list until I first make a list. So we'll come to our UDF value list options and we'll call this drop down test. And we are going to add, yes. Actually, let's just make this fun. Food allergies. If we wanted to track food allergies or something. Yes. Peanuts. We'll add. That is not how you spell peanuts. And of course, you can't right click. Okay. And we can say yes, milk / dairy. We can say no. We can say unknown. And save. Okay, so we have successfully created a food allergies UDF value list. We can come back to our UDF fields, and we're going to call this food allergies. We're going to enable it. We'll make it required. Actually, we won't. Only because I don't want to have to go and add it to all the people. List, and then we can specify the list. And we hit save and OK. Now when we come back to people and people search, now we'll click on McKay and we'll say information. Now we have our food allergies, which we didn't have before, and we're forcing the selection from a list. So there's no free text entry. And we'll say, yes, McKay is allergic to peanuts, and we can say save. All right. So that's same workflow, same functionality in the new version. We go to configuration, access control, and then person records. And then here's our UDF value list. We do have a couple created, and we can go back. I'll expand that out and lock it so we can just jump a little bit easier. So access control, person records, configuration. Here are the UDF fields that have been outlined, enabled, and how they've been defined in terms of their list. So here's the Boolean, that's the checkbox, yes or no. Numeric is going to force you to do, it's warning me that if I change it, there's already saved values in that. And so that's what that pop-up was, but we can do numeric. This field contains existing data in person records. Assigning a different type, field type to a user-defined field will delete all data entered into that field for all person records. So if we want to do that, don't want to do that. Anyway, so we've got options there on how we lay those out. You can use those in any way that you want. So if you wanted to track, for example, the department somebody's in, are they a coach? Are they a trainer? What's their location? Anything that doesn't fall into, if there's not a field for it already, and let's look through what fields we do have. So we'll pick Brandon Bailey. And if we look at our existing fields, so again, this was the UDF list that we were looking at. Default, we have phone number, mobile phone number, email address, SMS email, that would be like phone number, at vztext.com or whatever the carrier extension is to send an SMS email to a phone number. Location, so there is a predefined location field, and you can leverage that if you want. We have other contacts. So maybe this could be like an emergency contact, name and phone number. Vehicles, you can add vehicles if you're tracking that through here. Color, make, model, state, license number, tag. Partitions, is this person visible in other partitions or not? This person is visible in all partitions. And then people groups, what groups does this person belong to? We also have first name, last name, again, the partition that they're assigned to, activation date, expiration date, ID number. This is a unique ID number that NetBox uses in the background at the database level to identify this person as a specific individual person, as a unique individual. The ID number will auto-populate for you if you do not put anything in there. But you can also use this if you have employee ID numbers. You can type in and enter the employee ID number here, and you can use that instead of the auto-generated one. The auto-generated numbers always start with this underscore, and then just I think it's just the next number in sequence or an open number that is there. Shows you when this individual was last modified, the date and time. So no change has happened on this record since November 1st of 2023. And it tells you who last modified that record, which can be really handy when somebody all of a sudden has access to a door they shouldn't. Well, who modified that? Who changed it? You can go back and look. There's also more in-depth auditing beyond just the last modified as well, if you need to go there. Credentials, the encoded number on the credential format. When does that credential expire? And is it active, disabled? These are also active and disabled, expired and lost, I believe, are default values, but you can go and create additional values here as well if you have that need in your particular circumstance. The access levels, again, so the top of this list is the access levels that they have been granted. So a new individual wouldn't have anything. Let me come here and we'll create a new individual, add a new person. Let's see if we do a name. Let's do President, Mr. President. And let's say, Mr. President has a employee ID. We can say an expiration date. So this user is going to lose all access at the end of the month. Home office, we can fill in these values, these fields. Credentials, we can assign him credentials. Access levels, so again, for a new person, by default, no access levels are granted. That can be modified a little bit based on the group that the individual can be added to. And so if you have a set of standard access based on this person's an employee versus this person is a visitor, right? Visitors, you're probably not going to give any default access to, but an employee, based on the group they get added to, you could say they are going to get this standard employee access level group. And, only then would it actually populate something automatically. But by default, you're going to get 0 selected, and then you would come down here and you would select the groups. So we could say all doors always. That would typically be the only group when making that selection, but we could say custodial, and we could say all doors except cage, whatever our access levels are. Or if we have a access level group, then you could just select that group. And then when you click on the little up arrow here, it's going to pop that up. We can now set our expiration dates, activation dates, expiration dates. And do we want to auto remove this access level beyond once it's expired? So we'll expire this on the 30th, auto remove. So we'll see this disappear once that has hit that date. On our login tab here, this is to log in to the web interface. Do we want them logging into our NetBox portal? So we would give them a username, and we would generate a password for them. Or we would have them enter their password if they're here and onboarding. Or if you are domain joined, you can integrate this with your domain so that those credentials, your domain credentials, pass through into NetBox. And then you're not having to manually add those in. But again, this is only if you want them to log in. What roles do you want them to have when they log in? By default, you have a full system setup. That is your highest level of user role. That's going to be get everything, all permissions, everything. And then you have some other defaults. You have partition, you have master administrator, master partition administrator, master partition monitor, master partition setup. Now, if your system doesn't have partitioning enabled, it'll probably just say master administrator, master monitor, master setup. Partition comes in where we have multiple partitions. That relates to the partition that we select up at the top. If no partition selected, then they stay at the top level at the default partition. Or if you select master or however your partitions are defined, it's going to move that into that person, into that role. So we can say administrator. Now notice administrator, monitor, setup. At the top, we have administration, monitor, and setup icons. So that's what that generally tracks to. So if I say this person only gets monitor, then they're not going to get anything. They're not going to get access to anything in administration, and they're not going to get access to anything in configuration. They would only get the monitor options. Alarm filter group. If you want to filter their alarms to a specific set or a specific selection, you would select that through here. Default desktop widget. We can specify that if you have desktop widgets built. And then custom menus, do they get custom menus or not? And then you can save it. Of course, you need a temp password. Just include at least one number. Of course, and every time I go back, anyway, I won't go through the process of actually saving it. But that is how you would create a new person and the information required to make that work. And then we talked about the user-defined fields. Okay, another really helpful thing to know is building out the access control. So we'll look at access levels, how to build access levels, because of course, if we're going to grant people access levels, we need to build them first. So that is done under our, let me come in here. We'll actually do this in the new portal, and then I'll just make sure I clean it up when I'm done. So if we go to access, we'll start from the scratch. Let me shrink all these back down. We'll collapse our sidebar. So configuration, access control, and we have two things here that we're going to look at: access levels, access level groups, and we will also leverage reader groups down here at the bottom. So let's start with access levels. And we're going to do this. We're going to actually run into a little bit of a roadblock here in a minute, and you'll understand what I mean. Or if you've done this before, you know exactly what roadblock I'm going to hit. So we're going to give this just a name. I'll put an asterisk in front of it, and then we'll call it SNS testing, demo access level. And we'll give it a description. This is for testing. You can type in the doors, anything that helps you understand and know what this access level is, because when you get a great big long list, it can be kind of confusing in terms of what they are, how to differentiate them. Okay, so we've given it a name, we've given it a description. Now, what portals, what readers do we want that to work with? We have two options. We have reader, in which case we can select a single individual reader. So we would say, let's do sales Aaron. Or we can do a reader group. Okay, well, where's my option to select multiple readers? Well, that's in the reader group. So If you want an access level that's going to be for multiple readers or portals, you have to define the group first. All right, so let's jump back. So go to configuration and access control and reader groups. Yes, we'll abandon our changes. All right, so let's define a reader group. So some that we already have built, like there's an all readers group. That's handy to have. There's Denver all, there's Salt Lake all. We've got employee reader groups. We've got entrances only, and so on. So you can define these really in whatever kind of groups that you want, but we're going to do SNS demo reader group. And we can select whatever collection of doors that we want. And we have a search box as well. So we could say warehouse. If I need somebody to have warehouse doors, then we can say, here's all my warehouse. And we can click our arrow to pull those over from the available into the selected. And then we'll use that as our selection and we'll say save. Now, if we go back to access control and access levels, and I didn't hit save before, we just abandoned those changes, so we'll do it again. SNS demo access level, and we'll say access to all readers named warehouse. Now in our selection, we do reader group, and we can say SNS demo reader group, which is the one we just created. Now, the next selection is time spec. Always, which would be always valid, never valid, or any schedule that you have defined. And these can be time specs or time spec groups. And so if we say business hours access Monday through Thursday, and this is where naming really becomes helpful, because when you're looking at this list by itself, if you just name it business hours, I don't know what that actually is or when that is. But if we name it business hours access Monday through Thursday, 800 to 1700, oh, well, now I know. And here's Friday. Here's a Monday through Friday. We can make assumptions, but our names become very critical in providing clarity when we're looking at that resource elsewhere in the software. All right, floor groups. If you wanted to limit floors, like for example, for elevator access, you can do your floor group selections there. Threat level groups, that's for a later discussion in threat levels, which is probably an hour-long thing all on its own. Disarm alarm panel. Do we want this to disarm an alarm panel or not? Escort type. Does it require escort or not? Generally, you're going to leave those just as the defaults, empty, unselected value. Events, approval groups, double card presentation, double card. You may turn that on or off. Generally, what is best is to actually have a separate access level group that is just a double card on specific doors. And we see that here on our Salt Lake first in access level. So then you can give access to a door, but then only give that first in or double card presentation permissions to specific people instead of to everybody who has access to that door, if that makes sense. One actually important thing that has improved in the version 6.0 is the used by context, and we don't have any used by here, so I can't show you in this, but we've seen it other places, and we'll continue to see it as we look. This used by context, they've added that in some additional places, and so you'll see more used by context there. All right, so we save our access level. It's now in the list as our SNS demo access level. We have all of our options selected, and we have a saved status down in our bottom left corner. Now, when we go to people add, and if we go to access levels, now we have our SNS demo access level option there that we can add. All right. Let's look at access level groups. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we'll go access control, access level groups. Now, we don't have any right now, but if we wanted to say something like, we'll do standard employee access. Access levels given to all employees. Something along those lines. Okay. Single partition, multi-partition. To keep it simple, we'll do single partition. Approval group will skip. But what do we want? Okay, so we can say we want this to include our SNS demo access level. We also want it to include things like all the Salt Lake entrances. Maybe we want it to include Denver entrances and not seeing the other one I was thinking to add. That's okay. That gives us 3. So now we have 3 access levels tied to this group, and we can hit save. And so there's our standard employee access group. And now when we build our people add, we have the option to select the group. And you'll notice the difference in icon here. So here's the one that we built, which was just the access level. And then here's the access level group. It doesn't tell us what's in it. That's, again, names become important, but we can add that. And that is giving access to inherently those 3 groups that are contained within our standard employee access group. Okay. Any questions in anything we've covered so far? We've actually been kind of going through it pretty quick. Again, if you have questions along the way, drop them in the chat and we will answer those. Looking next, a really handy one to have or to use is the card decoder. So if we go to people, utility, nope, it's not there. It is. Well, we're going to show another option, because if you ever can't remember where something is, like me frequently, there's a little search icon hidden up here, and you can click that. Where did that move to? We may come back to that. Let's just do decode. See what I get. No results. And of course, I would have the brain fart that tells me where this is. Utility. That's the backup. We were going to look at that anyway. So we'll look at that actually. I wanted to show you this anyway, but under administration and then utility, anytime you make a change to your system, well, let me backtrack. Backups can be done on a scheduled basis, or they can be done manually. A manual backup is always going to be a full backup of that system. When you schedule backups, you can get, let me sort these so we see the newest one at the top. When you schedule a backup, there's a couple different types. You can have a full backup, you can have archived backups, and you can have differential backups. Generally, you'll get a full backup. Maybe you schedule a full backup for once a week. And then you can schedule differential backups, which is just the changes since the last full backup. And you might do that nightly. And so if there's ever an instance where you make a change to your system and it just has a really undesired effect, you can go back and restore a backup. And if you ever find yourself in that situation, don't hesitate to reach out to support. And Stone Support can walk you through restoring that backup and talk you through maybe which backup is the best one to restore. Do we just need to roll back a couple differentials, or do we just need to, go back to a full backup? Because there's options there, and they may have some unintended effects if you aren't just careful of which ones you pick. But when you restore backup, any changes made since that backup will be basically reverted back or never have been changed in the first place. And so some people like to take a backup anytime they're going to go and do a whole bunch of changes before they make those changes. I'm just going to get a backup, and then I have, if I do something wrong, I can at least go back to where I was. Some people kind of do it the opposite of, I'm going to make my changes and then do a backup. Either one works, just depends on what your flavor is. But that is under administration, utility, and then backup system, where you can do that. Sorry, I was just looking at a message note there. Okay. Oh, I forgot what I meant to cover. When you're looking at the access levels, we saw references to time specs and time spec groups. So let's jump back to that, because aside from the all or never, it's good to have some time specs defined. So configuration and time spec and holidays down here at the bottom of configuration. And again, if you don't know where it is, you can search for it. So reports, configuration, time specs, that would be under reports. That's not going to be configuring time specs. That's going to be running reports on what the time specs are, which is handy if you ever need to get a report for that. But we're looking configuration, not time server, time specs and holidays. And then we have holidays, time specs groups. So let's go to time specs, which takes us to here. So in our time spec, we have a list of defined time specs. If we create a new one, we just hit the plus button to create a new. We're going to give it a name. And we're going to call that, give it that, SNS demo time spec. A description. We're going to call this one Monday through Friday, and we're going to make it really obscure here. We're going to do 1 p.m., which is 1,300 hours, to, we'll just do for 2 hours. So 13 to 1,500 hours. Now, again, the name, where we've talked about that a couple times, I might take that and put it up there as well. Just so that when I'm looking at my list of time specs, I can know that this is the Monday through Friday, 1,300 to 1,500. Okay, so let's actually make that be the case. So we can say 1,300. Now, the tendency is going to be to do this, 1,500, and hit OK. And then we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's what we said, Monday through Friday. All right, now there's something wrong here. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just be aware of it. NetBox is going to use the leading second of the minute. So right at 1,300 hours and 0 minutes and 1 second is when this is going to be considered valid. That's going to continue through the trailing end of that second, which also means the trailing end of that minute. So as is right now, my end time is set for 1,500, so 3 p.m. So at 2:59 and 59 seconds, that's still valid. At 3 p.m. and 0 minutes, it's still valid because it's going to continue through the end of this minute, and my minute is 00 of the 3 o'clock hour. So if I want that as is right now, This is going to stay valid through 15:00 and 59 seconds. So it'll be almost a full minute, maybe longer than intended. So what you need to do, you just dial that back 1 minute and hit OK. So this is going to give us 14:59 and 59 seconds. So right when we hit that 1500 hours and 0 seconds, it's going to, that's when the state will change. So if you just go the default route, the easy route of saying, lock my door, my front exterior door, my public entrance door or whatever, lock that door at 5 p.m. If you do the 5 p.m., which is 1700 hours, your door will actually be unlocked through 5:01 up until 5:01, and then at the 5:01 time it will lock. So just be aware. Okay. So weekends, weekdays, and holidays. What days? We said Monday through Friday. We checked those boxes. Checked boxes equal valid access, valid selection at that point. So we're valid for Monday through Friday. Okay. Holidays. We have a holiday group called Office Closed. Do we want this time spec to be valid during the office closed holiday or not? Well, the office is closed. Nobody should be in it. So no. So I'm not going to check the box. Checking the box would say, yes, you can come in during office closed, but unchecking the box is you may not come in. This access level is not valid during the non-selected holidays. The holiday mode, they have an and or. So if you have multiple holidays that maybe there's some conflicts on, are we treating this as an and or are we treating this as an or? So there's a little logic there. Let's hit save. So now we have our time spec, which is Monday through Friday, 1300 hours to 1500 hours, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And we have that set there. So then when we look at clear our search and we go to access control and access levels, let's modify our SNS demo access level. And instead of saying business hours, we're going to say our SNS demo time spec, Monday through Friday, 1300 to 1500. That's where the name, being descriptive in your name, is really nice. And we can hit save and modify that. Okay, now time spec groups. This is if you wanted to take multiple time specs and combine them into a single selection. So we could say SNS demo time spec group, name it as you want. We can say, first, let's start with the one that we just created. So SNS demo time spec. Our calendar layout here shows us what the accumulation of these is going to be. So let's do training Monday through Friday, 15 to 1800. So you see that is going to extend. We can also do, let's take that one off. Let's do something with a little more overlap. We'll say Salt Lake City janitor time spec, or Monday through, here's just a Monday only. So when we do this, we're combining multiple time specs into one time spec. This becomes really handy. For example, if you're trying to do something that spans midnight, because we don't have a way of saying, do a time spec from Friday at 5 p.m. going into Saturday morning at 3 a.m. That is not a single time spec because we cross the midnight hour. So in that instance, what we need to do is we need to make a Friday from 5 p.m. to midnight or 11:59. And then we say another time spec of Saturday morning of midnight to 3 a.m. And then we can combine those together in a time spec group, which would then give us the overlap in the overnight areas, overnight hours. Okay, we hit save. So now we have that time spec group. So we have that as an option as well. And if we go back to our access levels, we'll look again at the demo access level. So here is our demo time spec group. Now, I didn't give it a very descriptive name. So aside from it being a group, we actually don't know anything about those hours. Again, being descriptive in your names will be your best friend. Okay. Holidays. So we have our list of holidays, and then we have our holiday group names. So by default, you have 8 holiday groups. You might think of this as like these are office closed holidays. These maybe are snow day holidays. This could be maybe federal holidays and things like that. So you can split them up. Another way to use holidays is to, for example, if you have a community resource, maybe like the swimming pool or the gym is maybe being renovated or remodeled or something along those lines. Instead of going and modifying everybody's access levels to take away access to that to that selection of readers or portals, one thing you could do is just create a holiday. So maybe we do a construction holiday group. Okay. And then when we go to holidays, we can create a new, come on, holidays. That loaded, there it goes. Okay, so we can do a new holiday, and we're gonna say break room closed. And we'll do a description, break room closed for construction. Let me put in just so I can come back and clean these out quickly. And we're going to say this is my construction holiday group. Start date, end date. Let's say it starts tomorrow and goes through the end of the month. And save. Holiday duration exceeds 5 days. Is this intended? Yes. Now, there may be some limitations on how long those holidays can be, and that limitation could even differ depending on if you're on NetBox hardware versus Mercury hardware. So if it's not behaving the way that you're thinking or expecting, reach out to support, and they can walk through what some of those limitations might be. So now we have the holiday. Now, if we go back to our time spec, so we created this time spec, which is Monday through Friday, 1300 to 1500. And let's say that we want, this is maybe something we're giving to our construction team. And yes, we want you to have access through the, this closure of those areas. And so we would save on that. Okay. All right. So we've gone over activity logs, portal status, scheduled actions, floor plans, adding people, user-defined fields, backing up your system, access control, including reader groups, access levels, time specs, and holidays. We looked at those. That is the bulk of the content that I had to cover for you. So with that, any questions on what we've covered? We've gone through a lot. Give you a moment to type in if you've got questions. While you're typing in your questions, which again, please do, nothing too big or too small. Patrick just pointed out in the chat that these are recorded, and we do post them on our YouTube channel. And so if you ever need to come back and reference something or see where it was that you got to that, go back and reference those on the YouTube channel. It's a great resource for you. We also have some other content there. There's some webinars that cover kind of shorter topics, or webisodes is what they're called. These webisodes are, shorter topics on how to do this one specific thing in either Milestone or OnGuard or NetBox. So take a look there. The If you want to look at upcoming events, another great one to look at is the stonesecurity.net/events webpage. Let me actually pull that up. And so we have, here's our August 22nd event for today. Coming up, we have our September 6th, a client appreciation and partner expo for the Salt Lake office and region. We have Tech Day with Axis and Stone in Texas, client appreciation in Seattle, grand opening for the Stone Orlando office in Florida, if anybody wants to take a trip down to Florida for September 24th, and so on. The new one that's been announced today is October's Techtober for 2024, Techtober 24. This is a really exciting event. Check out the details there, but just to give you a brief highlight of it, it is going to be hosted from the Global Technology Center in Las Vegas this year. So if you want to attend this in person, you need to attend in Vegas. Who's looking for more reasons to come to Vegas? Everybody. And it will also be live streamed and available online. So check out the details there. More information coming as we continue to flesh out those details as well. But check that out. All right. Well, I didn't see anyone drop questions in the chat, so I'm assuming nobody has any questions today. I don't think there's anything else really that would be worth digging into at this level. We start to get more complex as we go further. We'll cover other topics. One other thing, just real quick for those who are still here, if there's topics that we haven't covered in the past, and it's something that you would like us to cover, please send that in as a suggestion, and we will get that on an upcoming schedule. So we'd love to hear from you. Make sure that these are useful for you. Anyway, that's all I got today. Thanks for joining. See you next time.